You think you know your life. You think you understand the rules, the rhythm, the way things fall into place. Until one day, everything snaps. Before we get into the details, let me know in the comments where you are watching this video from. I wasn't supposed to be there that afternoon. Josh had a late meeting, so I planned to grab coffee, maybe browse some home decor catalogs. But something pulled me toward his office, some sick, gut-deep instinct. I never expected to see that.
Josh.
My husband of 18 years. In his car. With a woman.
Not just talking.
His hands on her waist. Their lips inches apart. I stood frozen in the parking lot, my brain refusing to process what my eyes were screaming. My chest felt tight, like someone had grabbed my lungs and squeezed. For a second, I thought about storming over, pounding on the window, demanding answers.
But no.
That's what a fool would do. Instead, I turned, walked away. Silent. Controlled. Inside, I was anything but. I gripped my wedding ring so hard it dug into my palm. It felt like a joke. Like a cheap trinket instead of a symbol of love. By the time I got home, my hands were shaking. I should have called him out immediately, but I needed to think. I needed a plan. The house felt too big. Too empty. The kitchen still smelled like the coffee I made that morning, back when I believed in the man who shared my bed. Our wedding photo was on the wall. It mocked me. And then, the front door creaked open.
Josh.
He tossed his keys onto the counter like nothing had happened. Like he hadn't just crushed our marriage in a matter of minutes. "Hey, babe," he said, loosening his tie, heading straight for the fridge. Long day. I swallowed down the bile rising in my throat. "Yeah," I said, my voice flat. "Really long."
Did he know?
Did he suspect I had seen? Or was he just that damn confident? I watched him grab a beer, pop the cap, lean against the counter. He looked relaxed. Too relaxed. It made me furious. "I saw you today," I finally said. For the first time in a long time, Josh actually looked at me. His whole body stiffened. The beer bottle paused halfway to his lips. His lawyer brain worked fast. I could see it in his eyes, calculating how much I knew. He chose denial. "Saw me," he repeated, forcing a chuckle. "What are you talking about?" I stepped closer, meeting his gaze head-on.
"You.
Your car. That woman. Asterisk, asterisk, don't insult me by pretending. Asterisk, asterisk." The smirk vanished. Josh set his beer down carefully. His mask of calm cracked. "Look, Mads." I held up a hand. I wasn't interested in his excuses. "Just tell me one thing," I said, my voice steady. Too steady. Josh's Adam's apple bobbed. Was it the first time? A flicker. Just a split-second hesitation. That was all the answer I needed. I laughed. The sound was bitter, unfamiliar, but it was mine. I turned, walked upstairs, and slammed the bedroom door shut. But this wasn't over. Not even close. Revenge. It burned in my chest like a slow, smoldering ember waiting to ignite. I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw them, Josh and that woman. The way his hands gripped her waist, the way their lips were so damn close. Too close. It played on an endless loop in my head, like a scene from a movie I never wanted to watch but couldn't turn off. The betrayal wasn't just in his touch. It was in the way he looked at her. The same way he used to look at me, years ago, back when our marriage still had passion instead of silence. I needed to breathe. I needed to move. I threw off the covers, pacing barefoot through the darkened house. Every room felt tainted. His cologne in the air, his jacket thrown over the chair, his phone charger plugged into the outlet by the nightstand. I wanted to destroy it all. Rip the wedding photos from the walls. Smash the crystal glasses he loved so much. Burn the damn mattress where we had once shared something that now felt like a lie. But I didn't. Instead, I wandered downstairs, my fingers tracing the cold kitchen countertop. The clock on the microwave blinked 2:13 a.m. in mocking silence. And then I heard it, laughter. Low, deep voices drifting in from the backyard.
"Zach."
And someone else. I moved toward the sliding glass door, pushing it open just enough to step outside. The night air was cool against my heated skin, and the faint smell of chlorine mixed with the scent of freshly cut grass. The backyard lights cast a soft glow over the pool, illuminating the two figures by the water.
Zach.
And Ryan. They sat near the pool's edge, beers in hand, their feet skimming the surface of the water. Relaxed. At ease. Completely unaware that my world had just collapsed. I should have turned around, gone back inside. But instead I stood there, watching. Ryan tilted his head back, taking a slow drink from his bottle. When he lowered it, his eyes flicked toward me. And held. For a second, I forgot how to breathe. It wasn't just a glance. It was something sharper. Something that shouldn't have been there. My stomach tightened. I should have looked away. But I didn't. His gaze traveled down my body, not in an obvious, disrespectful way, but deliberate. Assessing. Curious. Heat prickled my skin. This was wrong. So damn wrong. I forced myself to move, clearing my throat. Mom? Zach finally noticed me, lifting his beer in greeting. What are you doing up? Couldn't sleep, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. Ryan was still watching. You want to join us? Zach asked, scooting over slightly.
No.
Absolutely not. But instead of answering, I hesitated. Just for a second. That's when Ryan smirked. Barely there. But I saw it. And my heart slammed against my ribs. I turned sharply toward the house, gripping the door handle so hard my knuckles turned white. I should get back inside, I muttered. Good night, boys. I didn't wait for a response. I didn't need to. Because as I stepped back into the house, shutting the door behind me, I knew one thing for certain. Ryan wasn't just watching me. He was waiting. And deep down, buried beneath the anger and heartbreak and guilt, I realized something else. I wasn't sure I wanted to stop him. You can only fight temptation for so long before it wins. It started as something small. A glance held a second too long. A shift in the air when he was near. A feeling I refused to name. And then one afternoon it happened. Zach had gone to the gym, leaving the house empty except for me and Ryan. He had offered to fix the broken pantry door, something Josh had promised to do for months but never did. I should have said no. Should have found an excuse. But instead, I led him inside, my heartbeat hammering. The pantry was small, barely enough space for two people. He knelt in front of the door, examining the hinges, while I stood behind him, arms crossed, pretending this was normal. It wasn't. Not when I was too aware of his broad shoulders, the way his t-shirt clung to his back, the scent of his cologne in the confined space. Not when I was thinking about him at all. This should be easy, he murmured, reaching for the screwdriver. His voice was low, smooth, the kind that could slip under your skin if you let it. I didn't respond. Didn't trust myself to. Ryan started working, the soft scrape of metal against wood filling the silence. I tried to focus on anything else, the shelves, the spice jars, the fact that my hands were shaking. You okay? His voice broke the tension. I forced a laugh. Yeah, just a lot on my mind. He didn't push. Just nodded, adjusting the screw.
Yeah.
I figured. And then it happened. His arm brushed against my leg as he shifted. A simple touch, but it didn't feel simple. My breath hitched. He must have heard it because he stopped moving. The air turned thick. Charged. Slowly, Ryan turned his head, looking up at me. His eyes locked onto mine, searching, waiting. I should have stepped back. I didn't. His voice dropped, quiet but firm. You deserve to be taken care of. The words sliced through me, deeper than I wanted to admit. I swallowed hard, but my throat was dry. Ryan. I didn't get to finish. Because I reached for him first. It wasn't a choice. It was a reaction. My fingers skimmed along his jaw, barely a touch, but electricity shot through me. His breath caught. Just for a second. And then he moved. Our lips met. Fast, reckless, inevitable. A single, shattering moment. His hands found my waist, pulling me closer. My fingers tangled in his hair, dragging him deeper. For a heartbeat, nothing else mattered. Not Zach. Not Josh. Not the consequences. Just this. Just him. And then, as quickly as it started, I broke away. I stumbled backward, my pulse wild. Ryan exhaled, running a hand through his hair, his chest rising and falling. His eyes burned into mine.
I didn't know what to say.
I didn't know what I had just done. But I knew one thing for certain. I was going to do it again. You can tell yourself it was a mistake. A lapse in judgment. A moment of weakness. But when it happens again, you can't lie to yourself anymore. The days after the pantry incident were pure hell. I couldn't stop thinking about it. About him. Ryan didn't push.
He didn't try to talk about it.
But his eyes told a different story. They lingered. Longer than they should. Searching for something in me. And God help me, I searched for it too. We were playing a dangerous game. And then, one afternoon, we stopped playing. Zach had left to run errands. I was in the kitchen, pretending I wasn't waiting to hear the front door close behind him. But the moment he was gone, the air in the house shifted. Heavy.
Thick.
I turned, and Ryan was there, watching me. Neither of us moved. Neither of us spoke. But the space between us buzzed. His footsteps were slow, deliberate, closing the distance, one heartbeat at a time. I should have stepped back. I didn't. When he reached me, his fingers brushed my cheek, tilting my chin up. My breath hitched. I should stop this. But then his thumb traced my lower lip, and my body betrayed me. You want this just as much as I do, he whispered. I felt the words everywhere. I opened my mouth, to protest, to agree, I don't know. But he didn't wait for an answer. His lips crashed into mine. And I was gone. The kiss was raw, desperate. Like we had been starving for this. His hands gripped my waist, pulling me flush against him. My fingers tangled in his hair, my back hitting the counter as his body pressed into mine. I felt the heat of him, the power, the sheer wrongness of it all. And I didn't care. I didn't know how we moved, how we stumbled through the house. All I knew was the feeling of his hands on me, his mouth, the way my body melted under his touch. Somewhere in the madness, we reached my bedroom. A place that had been cold and empty for years. Not anymore. Clothes hit the floor.
Fingers traced bare skin.
His name fell from my lips like a prayer and a curse. And then we shattered. A rush of fire, of limbs tangled, of gasps and whispers, and a passion so consuming it burned. Time stopped. Reality bent. Nothing existed except him. The silence after was deafening. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, chest rising and falling too fast. Ryan shifted beside me, an arm draped over my waist. Too intimate. Too much. What the hell have I done? A scream clawed its way at my throat, but I swallowed it down. I didn't know if it was from horror or pleasure. All I knew was this. There was no undoing this. You think you have control. You tell yourself you can stop whenever you want. That no one will notice. That no one will get hurt. You're wrong. And one night, I learned just how wrong I was. It started with a single look. A stupid, careless look that lasted 1 second too long. Zach was on the couch, scrolling through his phone. Ryan and I were in the kitchen, pretending everything was normal. We weren't touching. We weren't even standing close. But when I handed him a glass of water, our fingers brushed. And we looked at each other. That look, it held everything. The hunger, the heat, the secret we both swore we'd keep buried. It lasted a heartbeat. But Zach saw it. His phone hit the table with a loud thud. What the hell was that? My stomach dropped. Ryan tensed beside me, his jaw tightening. I turned, forcing a laugh. What are you talking about? Zach stood up, eyes narrowing. That, he snapped, pointing between us. That weird-ass moment. Why the hell are you two looking at each other like that? Blood rushed in my ears.
Deny. Deflect. Lie.
I think you're imagining things, I said, trying to keep my voice even. You're being ridiculous. Too defensive. Zach's expression darkened. He wasn't a kid anymore. He could smell the lie. Ryan stayed silent, his hands clenched into fists at his sides. Then, the front door swung open, and my world collapsed.
Josh.
His presence sucked the air out of the room.
Tall.
Controlled. A man who always knew when he held the power. He stepped inside, dropping his briefcase onto the floor with a dull thud. His eyes swept over us. First Zach, then Ryan, and finally me. And something in his face shifted. Well, he said, voice dangerously smooth. This looks interesting. My pulse slammed. Josh had always been sharp. Calculating. It took him seconds to put things together. His gaze flicked between me and Ryan, analyzing. Reading. Then he laughed.
Low. Cold. Cruel.
Go ahead, Mads, he said.
Tell us.
What exactly is going on here? The walls were closing in. Zach was still glaring, waiting for an answer. Ryan looked ready to explode. And Josh was enjoying this. Because he knew he had me cornered. I opened my mouth to lie, to twist the truth, to find a way out. But nothing came. Silence. And in that silence, Josh's smirk grew. Jesus Christ, Zach whispered, stepping back like he'd been punched. No way. No F*** king way. My chest caved. Zach, wait. Are you sleeping with my best friend? The words slammed into me, harder than any slap could. Josh let out another dark laugh. Now, he murmured. Let's hear what she has to say. He was loving this. Watching me squirm. Watching Zach break. Watching Ryan fail to hold himself together. Because Ryan didn't stay silent anymore. I love her, he said. The whole room stopped. My head snapped toward him. My stomach dropped. Josh tilted his head, intrigued. You love her? Ryan's chest heaved, his eyes blazing.
Yeah. Ido.
God help us. Josh exhaled, rubbing his jaw like he was considering something. Then he turned to Zach. So, son, what are we going to do about that? The question was a trap. A match thrown onto gasoline. And Zach was about to explode. This was a nightmare. Zach was breathing hard, his hands clenched into fists. His face was a storm of shock, betrayal, fury. Josh stood between us like a king watching his enemies crumble. And Ryan was ready to fight. I could feel the rage radiating off him, his body tense, fists twitching at his sides. One wrong move, and this would turn into a war. I needed to get control. But how do you control a situation when the ground is crumbling beneath you? Josh exhaled, slow and amused. The arrogance of a man who knew he'd already won. You're pathetic, he said, shaking his head at me. Do you actually think he loves you? My stomach twisted. Josh turned to Ryan, eyes gleaming with cruel satisfaction. She's a desperate housewife, kid. A midlife crisis wrapped up in designer clothes. Ryan's jaw locked. Josh chuckled. Come on, you're 22. She's 40. How long do you think this little fantasy will last? Ryan took a step forward. Longer than your marriage did, he shot back. Josh's smirk dropped. You little. Ryan stepped in closer, eyes blazing. You think you can humiliate her? Tear her down. His voice was low, dangerous. When's the last time you even looked at her? Josh's nostrils flared. For the first time, he wasn't in control. Shut the hell up, Josh snapped. Ryan didn't flinch. When's the last time you made her feel like she mattered? Silence. And then, Josh laughed. Cold. Calculated. Wow. He turned back to me, shaking his head. You really think this is real? I swallowed hard. Josh stepped closer, lowering his voice. You're making a mistake, Mads.
He's a kid.
You're his experiment. A good time before he finds someone his own age. The word stabbed. Because maybe they were true. Maybe this was temporary. Maybe Ryan would wake up one day and realize I wasn't worth the risk. But then, I felt it. Ryan's fingers brushing against mine. A silent reassurance. I looked up. His eyes held no doubt. Only fire. And I knew. I wasn't Josh's prisoner anymore. I wasn't the forgotten wife. I wasn't a mistake. I lifted my chin, inhaling deeply. I'm leaving. Josh stilled. Zach's face twisted. What? He whispered, voice cracking. I turned to him, my heart shattering. I love you, Zach. But I can't stay here anymore. His eyes darted between me and Ryan, disbelief drowning out the anger. Mom, you can't be serious. Josh scoffed, throwing his hands up. Where are you even gonna go? His dorm room? Ryan's fingers tightened around mine. She's coming with me. The room exploded. Josh lunged forward, but Zach grabbed his arm, shoving him back. Dad, stop. Josh jerked free. You want to throw your life away for this? Go ahead. I squared my shoulders. I already threw my life away once. When I married you. Josh's face darkened. I turned to Zach one last time. I'm sorry. Tears filled his eyes, but he didn't speak. He just stood there, watching his mother walk out the door. Ryan's hand never let go of mine. And as I stepped out into the night, I knew. There was no turning back. Once you walk away, there's no going back. The cold night air hit my skin like a slap, but I barely felt it. My pulse was too loud, my breath too uneven. Ryan's grip on my hand was firm, steady, but inside, I was shaking. I had just left my home, my son, my entire life. Josh's voice still echoed in my head. His cruelty, his laughter, his certainty that I would fail. That Ryan would wake up one day and realize I wasn't worth it. I stole a glance at Ryan as we reached his car. His jaw was clenched, his muscles tense, his whole body humming with the energy of someone ready to fight.
For me.
But could I really let him? We got into the car and for a moment, neither of us spoke. I gripped my thighs, trying to keep my hands from trembling. Ryan exhaled sharply. Where do you want to go? I shook my head, letting out a bitter laugh. I have no idea. He reached over, covering my hand with his. Then we'll figure it out. I swallowed hard. Ryan, this is a mistake, a disaster, insane. But I couldn't say the words, because when he looked at me, his eyes full of something real, something steady, I wanted to believe him, even if it was dangerous, even if I had nowhere to go. Ryan's grip tightened. You're not alone, Maddie. Then why did I feel so lost? Josh wasn't done. I should have known. Because when we pulled into the parking lot of a cheap motel, my phone exploded with notifications. Josh, you really think this kid is your future? Josh, enjoy playing house while it lasts. Josh, you'll regret this. The last one sent ice down my spine. Josh, you have no idea what you've started. I locked my phone, my hands shaking. Ryan noticed. Is it him? I forced a nod, but my voice was barely a whisper.
Yeah.
Ryan's jaw tightened. He's trying to scare you. He doesn't have to try. Because it was working. We checked into the motel in silence. A tiny room, flickering lights, the smell of stale coffee and cheap air freshener. I dropped onto the bed, staring at the ceiling. What the hell was I doing? Ryan sat beside me, rubbing his hands over his face. We'll get through this, okay? I let out a breathless laugh. You say that like you know how. He turned to me, serious. Because I do. I wanted to believe him. But when my phone vibrated again, my stomach dropped. This time it wasn't a text. It was a photo.
Of me.
Taken from outside the motel room. My blood ran cold. Ryan grabbed the phone, his face darkening as he stared at the screen. Josh wasn't just watching. He was already here. The glass shattered before I could scream. The motel window exploded inward, sending shards flying across the room. A sharp crack, like a gunshot, echoed in my ears. Ryan was already moving. "Get down," he yelled, grabbing me and yanking me to the floor. My heart slammed against my ribs as we hit the carpet, my head spinning, my breath ragged. What the hell? Another thud. The motel door rattled violently against its hinges. Someone was outside.
Someone who wanted in. Josh.
Ryan cursed, grabbing my phone, my purse, anything we could carry. "We need to go. Now." I could barely move. My limbs felt frozen, my brain struggling to catch up. The door shook again, harder this time. Josh's voice, asterisk, asterisk, low, calm, terrifying, asterisk, asterisk, slipped through the crack. "You're not going anywhere, Maddie." Oh my God. He was right there. Ryan pulled me to my feet, his grip like iron. "We don't have time." I knew that, but my body wouldn't listen. This wasn't just about leaving Josh. This was about surviving him. Ryan yanked open the bathroom window, our only escape. "Maddie, come on." The door burst open. Josh stepped inside, holding a bat. His eyes gleamed with something dark, something I had never seen before. "Where do you think you're going?" There was no thinking, only moving. Ryan shoved me toward the window, his voice sharp. "Go." I climbed, half jumping, half falling through the frame. The cold air hit me like ice, but I didn't stop. Footsteps, asterisk, asterisk, heavy, fast, asterisk, asterisk, pounded behind me. Ryan followed, landing hard on the pavement. "Run." We bolted. The parking lot was empty, except for one car, an old truck parked by the curb. The keys were still in the ignition. Ryan didn't hesitate. "Get in." I barely had time to register what was happening before he hotwired the damn thing. The engine roared to life. And then, Josh was there, slamming the bat against the hood. "You think you can run from me?" Ryan punched the gas. The truck lurched forward. Josh jumped back just in time, the bat slipping from his grip as we peeled out of the parking lot. I gripped the dashboard, my whole body shaking. We made it. But for how long? The headlights appeared behind us 5 minutes later.
Bright.
Blinding. Too damn close. Ryan's knuckles whitened around the steering wheel. Son of a...
Josh.
I didn't have to ask. I already knew. He was following us. A sick, twisted feeling clawed up my throat as the truck sped down the empty highway. My phone vibrated in my lap, but I already knew what the text would say. "Josh, you think you can run? You think I'll let you?" My stomach flipped. Ryan's jaw locked. He's not gonna stop. My breath came fast, shallow. "Ryan, we can't." A sudden lurch. Josh's car rammed into the back of us. The impact threw me forward, my seatbelt snapping tight across my chest. The tires screeched, the truck skidding dangerously. Ryan cursed, jerking the wheel. "Hold on." Another hit. Metal crunched. The back of the truck shuddered. "He's trying to run us off the road." I gasped. Ryan's face was tight, eyes locked on the dark stretch of highway ahead. Not gonna happen. But Josh wasn't backing down. He came at us again, harder. The truck swerved. Gravel sprayed as we veered dangerously close to the shoulder. One more hit, and we were dead. Ryan's grip on the wheel was iron. We need to lose him. My heart pounded. How? His eyes flicked to the side mirror. Calculated. Cold. And then he did the unthinkable. Ryan slammed the brakes. Hard. Josh wasn't ready. His car shot forward, past us, just for a second. And that was all Ryan needed. He spun the wheel, yanking the truck into a sharp side turn. Josh's tires squealed. His car swerved wildly, trying to correct, but too late. The back of his car clipped the guardrail, hard. And then, spinning. Josh's headlights whipped around in the darkness, his car twisting out of control. And then, impact. Metal and glass exploded as his car slammed into the ditch. Ryan didn't slow down. He hit the gas. We kept going. I twisted in my seat, my breath catching as I watched the wreck disappear behind us. Josh's car was totaled, the hood crushed, smoke rising. But I knew it wasn't over. Josh should have been dead. But I knew better. People like him don't go down that easy. The wreck disappeared behind us, swallowed by the night, but my pulse refused to slow. The truck's engine roared as Ryan pushed the gas, hands gripping the wheel so tightly his knuckles looked like bone. Ryan. I gasped, my chest heaving. What if He's not dead, Ryan said, his voice sharp, certain. He'll crawl out of that wreck and come after us. We need to be gone before that happens. I stared at him, barely able to breathe. This was real. No turning back. No safe place. And then, the blue lights appeared behind us.
A cop.
My stomach flipped.
Shit.
Ryan cursed under his breath. Hang on. The flashing lights got closer. Closer. Then the siren. My blood went cold. This was it. They'd pull us over. Ask questions.
Take us in.
Ryan's grip tightened on the wheel. We can't stop. I turned to him, panic spiking through my veins. Are you insane? We can't outrun the cops. Ryan didn't answer, because just then, something insane happened. The cop car didn't pull us over. It pulled up beside us. And the officer inside? He was staring straight at me. His face was calm, unreadable, but something in his eyes made my whole body lock up. And then he nodded. Not in a pull-over way. In a keep-driving way. Like he knew. Like he was on our side. And just as fast as he appeared, he was gone. The cop car veered off, taking the next exit. Disappearing into the night. My breath shattered. What the hell was that? I whispered. Ryan's hands were still tight on the wheel. I have no idea. But deep down, I did. Someone else was watching. Someone else was in this now. And I had a feeling we were about to find out who. The storm was coming. Not the kind that soaked highways and rattled rooftops. Something worse. The kind you feel in your bones. Ryan drove fast. Too fast. The stolen truck tore down the deserted highway, its engine roaring like a beast chasing its own shadow. But no matter how far we went, I couldn't shake the feeling. We weren't alone. The cop's face was still burned into my mind. That calm, knowing nod. Like he was saying, I see you. I know what you've done. And this isn't over. And Josh wasn't dead. He was too smart. Too ruthless to die in a ditch. If anything, that crash would make him angrier. More dangerous. And I had no doubt. He would find us. Unless someone else did first. A sign appeared ahead. Next gas station. 2 miles. Ryan exhaled. We need to stop. I turned to him, my pulse still throbbing. Are you insane? Josh could be. We need gas, Maddie. We can't keep running on fumes. I swallowed hard, my stomach twisting. He was right. But stopping meant we were exposed. Vulnerable. And something told me that was exactly what someone wanted. The place was deserted. One flickering light. One old truck parked at the far end. A single convenience store, its neon sign buzzing in the dark. Ryan pulled up to a pump, cutting the engine. The silence was too loud. You stay here, he said. I grabbed his arm. Ryan. He leaned in, brushing his lips against my forehead. I won't be long. And then he was gone. I sat there, fingers digging into my thighs, eyes darting to every shadow. Waiting. Expecting. And then, the old truck's headlights flicked on. My breath stalled. A dark figure sat inside, watching me. My pulse slammed. Not Josh. Not a cop. Someone else. And just as Ryan stepped out of the store, carrying a gas can, the driver's door of the truck opened. A man stepped out. Tall. Built. Face shadowed under a cap. And then he spoke. You don't know what you've gotten yourself into, Maddie. My blood froze. Ryan turned. Who the hell are you? The man stepped closer, his hands in his jacket pockets.
Calm.
Controlled. Too damn confident. And then a smirk. Doesn't matter. He pulled something from his jacket. Ryan moved instantly, lunging forward, but it was too late. The gun was already pointed at me. The man tilted his head, eyes locked on mine. Josh isn't your biggest problem anymore. Share your thoughts in the comments. Let's discuss if this story resonated with you. Support the channel, like, subscribe, and click the bell so you don't miss new releases.